Welcome back. In principle, when we prepared for the conference, then we decided to look for countries that have not been represented before, with countries with whom we have not had previously joint projects. So therefore, we have Malta, Austria, and Slovakia. And Margit and Markus, and with the others, I met only at this conference, but Maltese colleagues are my old friends. I don't even exactly remember when we first met. Dorianne is a practitioner, and she has represented Malta in all kinds of networks. And she is my Euroguidance colleague. We have a partner in every country, and Dorianne is the one in Malta. And Stephen is also a practitioner, has participated in several policy development events, also a university lecturer, trainer. And likewise, we figured it out that we met first in 2006. So there's a lot of water under the bridge now. But Malta, career, learning and development, and like with other workshops, we will hear about the Maltese experience and for now, and then Anna Granberg for the last 20 minutes will take over and will encourage us to participate and to share our thoughts, what we would like to take with us to home. So welcome. Thank you for this introduction, even though we didn't understand it, because it is in Estonian, but there were... She probably said something nice about us, I hope, at least. Thank you.
Agreeing to participate in this workshop, and also for the invitation here to share with you our experiences from Malta. We will start off by introducing ourselves. I am Dorianne Gravina. I work in the Ministry for Education and Employment. I was a teacher for many years, teaching also a subject which involved an element of career education, and later on I specialized in career guidance, and now I am an education officer specifically focusing on career guidance services within the schools. Stephen?
Lodwa Taiba. Good morning in Maltese. So I'm Stephen. Like Dorianne, I'm an education officer in charge of a subject we call personal, social and career development. My career as a teacher started, I taught Maltese in the secondary school. Then I did a postgraduate diploma in counseling, and I started my work in career guidance, and eventually I became a warranted counselor. In Malta we have 2 routes, and we'll talk about them a bit later. And now I am an education officer, as I said, within the Ministry of Education and Employment. And the fact that the Ministry of in Malta is both within education and employment, that helps us a lot to push forward the agenda of career guidance. Okay? So this is our very small island, as you can see. In the map there, it's a dot in the Mediterranean, literally. And it's quite different from Estonia. We came from sunny weather to a bit gloomy weather. But so if you haven't been to Malta, I suggest that sometimes you come, because it's a very nice place to be, and we have a lot of history.
Yes, as you can see, the circles there refer to the state colleges in Malta. We have 10 state colleges. A college means a network of schools, including both primary and secondary schools. So colleges are spread around the island according to the area, Besides the state colleges, we also have a number of church schools, schools run by the church, the Catholic Church, and also a number of independent schools. However, as education officers, our remit really focuses on the career guidance provision provided within the state schools.
However, we collaborate also with the church and the independent schools.
And very often what happens is what is introduced in the state schools is taken up and also implemented within the church schools and the independent schools.
It is good to know that within these colleges there is what we call a psychosocial team. So basically within these teams there are different professionals which are specialized in their areas. And one of the specialties of personnel is career guidance practitioners. We make a distinction in Malta between personal counseling and career guidance practitioners, but we'll talk about that later.
The aims of this workshop is we would like to share with you some of the work that we do with regards to career education and career guidance. The aim is to highlight a few interesting practices, let's call them interesting practices that we do in Malta in the different year groups, which can give you some insight into the work here in Estonia, which from these 2 days you are doing a very good job, but obviously it's always the idea of improving the career service that one is providing. And we also, Stephen and I have worked on a framework which includes not only the curriculum aspect, but also complemented by the career guidance aspect. So we would like to introduce to you also this framework.
Which you have a copy on the table. And then we'll talk about some examples related to career guidance. So to get an idea of where we come from, within the ministry, there are 2 directorates. One is the Directorate for Learning and Assessment Program, which basically, from where I come from, it basically takes care of curriculum, development of curricula, interviewing teachers, recruiting new teachers, evaluation, and things like that. As I said before, am the education officer with my colleague at Malta, taking care of personal social and care development subject. And the subject is compulsory from primary to secondary. And as you can see, there are 3 aspects within this subject. The idea of development, the development of the self within a social context, and the development of career competencies. Okay? Teachers of PSCD are qualified in the subject. So like you have English teachers, okay, which are qualified to teach English, we have a course at the University of Malta that qualifies PSCD teachers.
Complementing the curricular aspect is we have the Directorate for Educational Services, which refers to services provided to students regarding the personal development. So we have the counseling services, psychological services, social work services, youth services, and the career guidance service. My responsibility as an education officer is to ensure that there is a career guidance program in each college, starting from the primary, continuing on to compulsory education. And the idea is that there are career guidance interventions within the schools, with a variety, face-to-face, group work, also complemented, I will go into this later on, complemented by external resources. We heard yesterday the importance of employers. We give a lot of importance to the support that employers give, talks they give to students, career exposure experiences, and also we have the support of the Public Employment Service, the PES, who collaborate incredibly with the ministry. Because since we are in the same ministry, there is a lot of collaboration with the Public Employment Service, who believe a lot in the importance of career guidance. We were discussing with Margaret earlier how this collaboration with PES occurs. They believe, the PES believe that career guidance is important. It is a preventive tool, and because career guidance can lead to economic benefits, you know, with students then choosing rightly and not changing jobs, because obviously this leads to more economic benefits. But I'll explain later on the type of interventions we organize within our schools. So within the Austria, I was impressed with the careers coordinator role. In Malta, we also have this role. We call them career advisors. You have a qualified level 7 qualified career advisor in each college. So she or he would be the person who coordinates the career guidance work within the college. And the career advisors are complemented, the work of the career advisor is complemented by that of a guidance teacher. A guidance teacher is someone who teaches a subject, but she or he would also have guidance responsibilities. So the career guidance teacher also has the possibility, gives lessons, so she has a lot of contact with the students, so that is very beneficial. So she or he would be the first contact point for the students. And then when the guidance teachers feels that the student requires more in-depth help, career guidance, he or she would refer the student to the career advisor. So there is a system of support for the student coming not only from the career guidance aspect, but also the curricular aspect, which will go on into more detail as we go along.
So as I said, PSD is a compulsory subject from year 4, so students would be around 7, 8, till year 11, so till compulsory schooling when students are 16, and then they go on either to work or to post-secondary institutions. And career education is part and parcel of this program. Yesterday, we heard how important it is to start from when they are young, and as you can see, we start in the primary. Obviously, we focus on the self more, on the social aspect, but we go also in certain aspects related to work. For example, the work we find in the community, how the work in the community contributes to the society around us. So we have certain aspects that talk about work and careers, obviously according to the age of the pupils. The program is developmental, so you can have one topic or outcomes that can be repeated in different years, so in different intensity and depth. Okay? The classes, as you can see there, are generally not more than 17. This is in the collective agreement, this is statutory, and generally, when possible, the students sit in a circle. And the idea of sitting in a circle is that they have a chance to participate more, there is equity, you can do more group work, and there is more time for reflection, basically.
So once again, complementing the curricular component is the career guidance programs we deliver in schools. As a definition, we adopt the international definition of career guidance, referring to services intended to assist individuals in order to make choices, education and training choices, but we specifically focus more on teaching them the career management skills that students nowadays need in order to manage their careers. So it is more focusing on giving them the employability skills needed to navigate in today's turbulent labor market. As Stephen said, the program starts from year 4, from the primary level. we believe it was quite a struggle to introduce career guidance in the primary schools. We had teachers who were quite resistant to the idea. What do you mean? We're going to teach students about work and about what they want to do. This is too early. It's too early to introduce such concepts. It was, believe me, it was quite a challenge. But when you implement a program in one school, and then there is talk that the students are enjoying the work, it's seen as beneficial, then there is a ripple effect. There is a positive ripple effect. And we give a lot of focus to career guidance in the primary. The work is obviously developmental. It caters for the different needs of the students. And as I said, the focus is on teaching, you know, for the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and attitudes.
One of the things we find that works is that you start to work with someone who wants to work with you. So if a head of school is willing to introduce a certain program, you work with that head of school. Eventually, as Dorianne said, other heads of school learn about the program, learn what is happening. Parents will talk about it and say, why in that school that program is being implemented and in ours is not. And eventually, you get the ball rolling.
And it could be the advantage of a small island, where what happens in one part of the island, the other part of the island get to know, quite quickly. So yes, we tend to use that way of working in our local context.
In PSCD, in the secondary, we have introduced what we call a reflective workbook. These are examples, and we have copies here, of career-related lessons. Obviously, the teachers prepare their own material as well and adapt according to the needs of the students. Some more examples. So as you can see, we do not only develop skills and attitudes towards the world of work and career, but we also need to teach students, for example, how to write a proper CV, okay? How to present themselves during an interview. So these are all important aspects for children, especially when they leave school and decide either to continue studying or start working.
In our PowerPoint, we have left a link, and you can get access to these workbooks. So perhaps you will distribute the PowerPoints later on, and you can see these workbooks at your own time. Okay, so I have highlighted a few examples, I said, interesting examples from the career guidance programs that we deliver in schools from the primary years. One of we start in year 5 with class-based sessions where we get students to think about what they enjoy doing, what they like doing, what hobbies they enjoy, what are their aspirations. And you get students who want to be footballers, who want to be astronauts. We do not discourage students. We help them to dream. And we do nothing special in the primary, but we get them to dream, but then to help them realize that the importance they give to education will influence the type of career path they will take. So we'll try to associate what the link between what is happening in school, even how important the importance they give to school. We try to associate that with what they could be doing later on as a career. We also do fun activities like drama activities where we discuss employability skills. There you can see the characters of minions who discuss what it means to be employable in today's labor market. So we try to be a bit creative with the young students to engage them in the sessions, obviously. Then with year 6 students, year 5 students are about 9-year-olds. Year 6 students are 10-year-olds. This is the last year of primary schooling. And there we get students thinking about the transition to secondary schooling. So we help them to understand what it means now that you're going to do secondary school. They have to choose a language, so we start off together with the PSCD lessons to introduce them to decision-making skills, because they are now starting to make decisions even as young as 9 and 10-year-old students have to start making decisions. Okay. When it comes to this secondary education program, the secondary education program is more structured. Within the primary sector, there is some flexibility as to the program which is delivered in the colleges. What happens in one college does not necessarily mean that this will also occur in another college. When it comes to the secondary career guidance program, there is more structure. For example, one of an important decision is during year 8, when students have to choose options. We have over 30 options that students can choose, and this can be daunting on a 12-year-old student to choose which subjects she would like to study for the remaining years in secondary school. So we organize activities, talks, fairs, to help students to get the skills to choose subjects, which they will need these skills later on when they're choosing subjects at post-secondary education, at university. So we focus on giving them the opportunities to develop these skills. In Malta, we have introduced a new educational reform, My Journey, which has provided students the opportunity to choose vocational subjects. And this has strengthened our CMS teaching because these vocational subjects have work-based learning. So with these subjects, students tend to have lessons not only in the classroom, but also at the place of work. So there is a strengthening of CMS. Other examples include in year 9, we introduced the career learning portfolio. I could not give you a copy because it's in Maltese, but it is for students to have the opportunity, have a tool to reflect on the career learning, because very often students go on visits, they go on job exposures, they listen to talks, but sometimes all the information is, forgotten. So we have this tool which provides them the opportunity to reflect on what they're learning, and then the guidance practitioners would call in the students, discuss them with the students. Sometimes this exercise is also organized in collaboration with the PSCD teachers, so it is a tool for reflection.
So as the student was saying yesterday, it's not enough that you bring an employer to the school or today to take the student to a visit on a workplace. You have to give him the opportunity to reflect why he is going on to visit a place work. What the employer is saying, is it relevant for me? So there is this element of reflection, which we believe is essential when you are doing career education and career activities.
In year 10, we do very exhaustive exercise. We have 2,300 year 10 students in our state colleges. And we ensure that each student attends a 1-week job exposure at the place of work. And this is a very demanding activity. But as Anthony Mann said yesterday, students need contact with the world of work in order to understand what it means to be an architect, if I want to be an architect, a plumber, an engineer. They want to see, they want to experience the work. So we give them this opportunity. The organization of this initiative is, on one hand, it is organized nationally. 70% of the placements are found nationally. We have, under my remit, there is a small unit, and we collaborate with national entities in different sectors, in the financial sector, ICT sector, engineering sector. And we meet with these entities. We explain what the aim of this exposure, and these entities find employers. We try to make as Anthony mentioned yesterday, try to make the experience for employers as easy as possible. We also help them, because sometimes employers do not know what it means to receive students for a whole week. What shall the student do for a whole week? Does he have to run after me all the time, follow me all the time? So we share our thoughts, we share our experiences, how a job exposure can be organized at the place of work. And 30% then of the remaining placements are found by the colleges, because very often students may have specific interests, so it would be the college which organizes.
And this is a process that starts. First, we ask the students what they want to do, where they want to go. Then, as you can see in the picture there, mock interviews are done. So those are two employers themselves who are doing mock interviews with the students, and they assess the students, and then they give them feedback. So it's a process that leads then to the work exposure. When we started this, I started it I don't know when, in my college. It was very difficult to convince employers to accept 15-year-olds. Obviously, because even of health and safety issues, responsibility. So it doesn't come easy. But you have to work and work and build trust. And now the employers realize that it is also beneficial for them as well. So the employers, you have to convince them to be on your side.
That it's worth, receiving, and, it is quite a burden. A whole week hosting students is quite a responsibility, let's put it that way. Complementing this experience is a reflective logbook.
You have
a copy.
On your tables.
It's in English and Maltese, so we left you a copy. And once again, we believe that reflection is the skill, is the key to learning career management skills. So there is reflection on before you go for the experience, reflecting during the experience, getting feedback from the employer, from the mentor at the place of work, being accompanied by a career guidance practitioner who comes to visit you at the place of work. There is supervision at the place of work. We do not leave a student for a week out on a work placement without visiting the student. So there is a lot of complementing support. Okay.
It is a lot of work, trust me.
For the elder students, then there are fairs to introduce them to the opportunities with regards to courses, etc. I think we have a video now, a short video, to give you an idea of a type of activity we organize locally.
fil-skola ta' s-sġiwi.
Għanna
nis minn settur differenti li qed jagħtu daqsxejn fuq l-rwol tagħhom u x'jagħmlu fix-xogħlijiet li biex ikun jistgħu jaraw daqsxejn x'jistgħu jagħmlu qudiem. Bħala career guidance teachers imorru fl-iskejjel li jgwidaw it-tfal u ngħinuhom biex isibu saqajhom iktar il qudiem. Ma jinħelix ħafna ħin ifittxu dak li forsi ikun l-aħjar triq tagħhom. Bħallum ikun tajjeb ħafna l-istudenti jistgħu imissu bidejhom u jieħdu l-esperjenza tan-nies li qegħdin fis-settur differenti minn joqogħdu bil-qiegħda jisimgħu xi lecture jew xi speech li ma jispiċċa għadna. Għandna setturi mill-finanzi jew setturi mis-saħħa ma' skejjel għaw ftit minn kollox biex hekk noqtu il-gost ta' kulħadd.
Bħala kumpanija huwa onur li nipparteċipaw għal attivitajiet bħal dawn, nemmnu li hija importanti ħafna l-istudenti li jkollhom dat tip ta' exposure. Aħna nofru ħafna opportunitajiet għal studenti li jixtiequ jkomplu karriera fl-accounts jew anke f'IT u tajjeb li hawnhekk ikunu jafu xemm għalihom fil-futur.
This activity is held during the week, but also in the weekend, so that the parents can also come together with the students to see the different opportunities that exist for year 11 students. So these would be 15, 16-year-olds that would finish their compulsory education and do what we call the SAC exam, and then they have to decide where to continue studying or whether they would go into employment. As you can see, a lot of activities happen. However, we are now going to talk about a bit the framework. And all this comes from the Education Act, as you can see, that gives importance to career guidance and counseling. Okay.
One of the major policy framework which brought a change in Malta was the framework here, the Career Guidance Policy for School in 2007, which took quite some time to be implemented. But it brought a change because it introduced the teaching of career education within personal and social. Before it used to be called personal and social development. Then we got careers into the subject, so now students are entitled to a career education from the primary, and it also brought a very important change. Whereas I don't know if this happens in your schools, but within schools, very often more attention is given to the personal needs, personal problems, family problems of students. And very often guidance used to be resolved to dealing more with the personal issues of students. And career guidance was being sidelined, given less importance. This document ensured that career guidance and counseling are separate professions. So the career guidance from the time that this policy was implemented was being given the right, the amount of time needed in order to obviously organize all these activities. So within our schools, we have professionals, we have a program related to career guidance and also professionals, counselors who deal with the personal issues of students. So it brought this separate division of personal counseling from career guidance, giving more importance, more agenda to guidance issues, career guidance issues.
The other two documents basically are National Curriculum Framework, from where the Learning Outcomes Framework was issued, and where the career education learning outcomes are elicited. We thought of doing this reflection, but I think we can skip this because we reflected about this yesterday, okay? And I think, how much time do we have left?
30 minutes? It's okay.
So basically, we talked about this yesterday, the importance of why we should, 20 minutes, why we should talk about work and careers.
But as practitioners, you know, very often we are immersed in our work. We go on from one activity to another. But we believe on the importance of sitting down and reflecting on questions. Reflecting on these two questions. Why and when should schools teach about work? Why should schools develop a strong career learning development program? So it is right. And yesterday we had the opportunity to sit down and reflect. Why is it important to teach students career management skills and not to keep on doing things as if, you know, you might need to change, you might need to reflect on what you are doing. We are aware that there are changes in the place of work, new trends, new contract of employment, and the labor market is changing. We are all aware of these issues. Anthony Mann yesterday highlighted them, so we have to keep this in mind.
And in a small island community like ours, working trends change very quickly, and it's very, very difficult to forecast what type of work or careers there will be on the island. So that is why it is important to teach skills and right attitudes rather than giving a lot of information.
As the case in Estonia, it's difficult to predict what careers are needed in 10 years' time. So when you're working with students in the secondary, so that's important. The focus should be more on teaching the skills rather than giving them information which will be obsolete in just a few years. We'll just
discuss. Maybe.
And just give you maybe just a few minutes to think about what topics would you include in a curriculum for schools. What topics would you think are important that you discuss with your students regarding to career education?
You can discuss a bit between yourselves, 2 or 3 minutes. Yes, some ideas.
الراي تحسب ها؟
طيب.
بعدين نكون شاعر Okay.
Okay. Any ideas? Maybe one from each table?
Jah. Ma saan aru, et mõtteid on väga palju.
I understand that there are many ideas, but we have a request, 1 idea per each table. And I'll start right from here. I had one idea that has been bothering me or has actually created a lot of questions for me in my everyday life with students, and that concerns neuropsychology. Awareness, ability to develop your ables, because students close, they say, mathematics is not my thing, my parents didn't understand physics, I am not going to study Russian. So from very early age on, students have this understanding that I can learn just about anything that I want, but I only need the right strategies, because I can see problems that if there is awareness, including the support from teachers, then I think that our students might have more opportunities. I can see in my everyday work that students have this understanding from an early age that
In themselves and have strategies to combat with them. Niisiis meil praegu käib keel.
So we are changing languages, so please keep your headphones close to you. Well, the next table. We think that one important skill or topic would be the ability of the skill of critical thinking in this influx of information, this galore of information that reaches students and also teachers and career specialists. The student should be able to find the important things from that huge chunk of information. So time management skills, this is very important. And I think this is something that we emphasize in career guidance. I need to think what I need to do in short term and in planning my long-term activities. Communication and teamwork. Practical experience, or gaining practical experience from very early age, more practical experience, that is. Self-analysis skills. We also mentioned time management skills, time planning. We thought about reflection skills, but since it was mentioned already, then I think it's holding on or consistency or continuity. We need to support consistency, continuity, so that all this reflection and everything would work. Everything is so clever, but ex-prompt, I'd say, encouragement skills, how to encourage a 4-year-old to think about choices. Where is my grandmother working? What are the professions that I know? And this can be done through play and games. So the skills to encourage very young children.
Job interviews, one of the things that most people lack is attention to detail. When I'm employing an accountant, I cannot employ somebody who does mistakes, not even 5%. It's a lot of work to correct them. And one of the things that may also help to defeat the challenge, or overcome the challenge of constantly changing world is techniques of effective learning, of speed learning.
Very good.
Okay.
You deserve a round of applause. Very nice.
All very valid topics, which you, I'm sure, will see included in the topics that we discuss in Malta.
These are some of the ideas we came up and some of the things we do in Malta within the career education program and within career guidance activities. So maybe those that you wrote there are somehow included in all those themes. Now we're going to pass on to the framework. As we said, and as you saw, we do a lot of activities and a lot of work. However, we never had a framework that encompasses everything together. And we wanted to develop this framework as a continuity of what we already have, and to encourage also the idea of a whole school approach. So
we looked at different frameworks, which most probably are familiar with, the blueprints in Canada, USA, Australia, Scotland. So we did not reinvent the wheel, because you tend to see the same themes coming up in these different frameworks. And as Stephen said, the idea was to integrate all the career learning occurring within the school context, coming from the subject of PSCD, from career guidance, from subject lessons, because very often there are work-related topics in home economics, in religion and social studies. We want to integrate and to encourage and integrate the whole career learning within a school context to achieve better coordination between the different stakeholders within the schools, so that there is more an integrated approach to career learning. We wanted also to establish some national guidelines. We do not have career guidance strategy, unfortunately, to date. So we wanted to at least have a framework for the school context, education context. And what we also wanted to, we believe a lot on reflection, even when it comes to practitioners. We wanted a tool to evaluate the work that is being done within the schools. We'll discuss this further. So this whole school approach includes these professionals within the school context, ourselves as education officers, the career guidance practitioners, who are various, the guidance teachers, the teachers who teach PSCD, but also we wanted to include the senior management teams in Malta, the head of school, the assistant heads. They have a major role in what type of programs are implemented within the school context. So we wanted to get them on our side, to include them in this framework. So this is a whole school approach towards career learning.
We included also subject teachers because sometimes teachers, like an English teacher, would be doing how to write a CV, and he won't maybe realize that he is helping in students in career management skills as well.
And very often what we find is, I don't know if it happens here in Estonia, there is some fragmentation. What one is doing we don't know what's happening, what is happening in career guidance, what is being taught in English. They are doing CV writing, and we are teaching CV skills. So there is this lack of coordination, even within a school context, So in this way, the different stakeholders teaching career learning are aware of what is happening in the different areas. This is we divided the framework on the 3 learning areas, one related to personal exploration and management competences, personal knowing oneself, interpersonal skills, being self-aware, knowing your strengths, your weaknesses. The second learning area is the learning exploration, as you said, the importance of knowing your studying style, how to study, how to learn. Okay, we find that is perhaps, it's a skill that needs to be taught. And it's a skill that if you develop that skill, it will help you throughout your life. Understanding the relationship between school performance and your future choices. Making educational choices in line with your aspirations. And the third learning area revolves around career exploration. Okay, so I know myself. Now, what are the career opportunities available? What is the world of work? What opportunities are there? So these are the 3 areas which you will find are very similar to other frameworks internationally. The context, as we said, is primary, starting from the primary, moving on to the secondary school, to compulsory schooling. In Malta, compulsory schooling is until 16 years of age.
And as we said before, we believe a lot about reflection. And even within PSCD and within the career guidance programs, teachers tend to use what we call the experiential learning cycle. I don't know if you've heard about it, but basically the idea is that you have the activity, which is the concrete experience. Okay, then there is the reflection about the activity and how the activity helped you and the reflection helped you to arrive at a certain decisions or ideas, and then new learning, and then how you can transfer that to life outside the school. And this is a reflective process that even as teachers, when teachers are at university and learning to teach, we teach them to use this cycle even for themselves. So when they are teaching, for example, during their teaching experience, they have to reflect, and because it helps them to improve their practice. And this is something that we use during the lessons and the activities. The framework has a lot of, how do you say, things that we want to see and evaluate. So we have
5 elements.
We have the curriculum goals, what outcomes we want to teach, basically, what content is important, how it is best taught, okay, how it best to assess that. This is the problematic part, but we think that the reflective part is the best part of it, and how do we assess the program. And as we said, and the programs focus on knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So it's a process. The syllabus, you have the outcomes, framework syllabus, and it's a process that leads you to reflect and maybe even change something within the lesson or the syllabus or the activities.
So besides the framework, we wanted to have a tool for all the stakeholders involved in the delivery of career learning, a tool to reflect on what they are doing. And we outlined 4 areas for reflection. And these are 4 categories for reflection. We want the school to reflect on the type of career education program being provided. We want them to reflect and evaluate the career guidance provision, the career guidance interventions provided to students, whether they are really adopting a whole school approach or whether there is still some fragmentation between the delivery in the different areas. And we also wanted to evaluate the professional input of the practitioners. Are the practitioners keeping up to date with labor market developments? Are they going for training? So these are the 4 categories that we would like the schools to evaluate to ensure that they are providing a coherent, integrated, and relevant career guidance, career learning and development program. This is, once again, this is a reflective model which, as a practitioner, one can use to reflect on what you are doing, because as I said previously, sometimes what happens, we do the activity, but we do not find time to sit down and reflect on, did this activity have any impact on the students? Is there any need to change any of the way that it was organized? So there is an element of reflection. So it's what happened, what were your feelings about these activities? Was it a good or a bad experience? The idea is then to improve, if need be, to improve the experience. So it's a cycle of reflecting on what you are doing and even finally doing an action plan. So what was positive, what needs to be done, what should I do next time, what should I change? So it's once again a reflective cycle which helps you to improve the delivery of career learning. Okay, so here, as you see, these are the 4 categories for reflection and evaluation. Each category are divided into 5 elements. And we are going to give you an exercise, in fact, so that you can even make use of this tool. And the idea is that as a school, we believe that this reflective exercise, there needs to be a leader. There needs to be someone from the school who would be responsible for organizing this evaluation experience. Otherwise, we are aware that if you leave it for anyone to organize, it will not be done. So we believe that the right person to organize such an evaluation system would be, in our case, we call her the career advisor, the person who is responsible for the coordination of career guidance within the school context. So the idea is to hold meetings with all involved in the delivery of career guidance, and to use this tool in order to reflect at what is happening in schools. So each category has different elements. On your tables, we left you a reflection reflecting on the whole school. And we have to, we have
the ones in red.
The ones in red, we have taken the example of reflecting on the whole school approach, whether the school is really adopting a whole school approach to career learning. And we have a few minutes, Margaret. We would like to give you a few minutes to
look at the elements that are there in the whole school approach. As you can see, every how do you say element has been divided into three statements of evidence, and basically it's a self-reflexive tool, and you have to see the elements within each category and say whether these are excellent, acceptable, or needs to improve. And then, when this is done, the school or the career advisor, together with the school, has to make an action plan, because it's futile to reflect and say, okay, this is working and this is not, and stop there. You have to say, if this is not working, what is the action plan to improve that activity or that input? So, for example, outcomes to be achieved, access information is accurate, current, relevant, and accessible. So this is something that the school thought it needs to improve, okay? So action, and the school would have decided that the website needs to be checked for information and updated. Who will do it? Okay, the career guidance practitioner. How it will be done? Who will liaison with the ICT officer in the school, and obviously, if he needs additional resources and a deadline, so it will be done. Because if you don't have a deadline, sometimes things tend to be left on the shelf. So, do they have time to do the first part? No? Okay. No, it's okay. They can do it at home?
No, it's okay. They have an example on a handout, so they can see it in their own time. Okay, so I think...
These are references we use.
Okay, so we have a number of references which you can refer to in your own time. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully it was insightful and helpful for yourselves. Thank you.
We're going to take questions now, Mark, or questions now? Or...
Thank you very much. Suur tänu. Kas on mõni...
Are there any questions now? Are there any questions? Are there any questions now? Yes, there are. The first question comes from here. And then two questions. Thank you very much for sharing your work and your theory and experience. And especially grateful for the full school or entire school strategy for having elaborated it. So what it was in a sense, and who were included in this preparation work and who is implementing it. Thank you very much for that work.
Sorry, because I'm confused hearing the translation. We are meeting with, in Malta, colleges are headed by principals, college principals. So now we are meeting with college principals in order to share this framework. We are meeting also with union members in order to share this framework. We are also having meetings with the career practitioners, with the subject teachers. So these are all stakeholders involved, because unless you get them on your side and they show them the validity of this work, this framework can just be a booklet which can be put on the shelf and not used. So yes, we are having a lot of meetings with the different stakeholders to inform them of each and everyone's role.
In fact, that's why it's still in draft, because we want to consult as much as possible different stakeholders before we make it public, so that they will realize that we want them as partners. We don't want to impose something, because, as you know, when you impose something, most of the time it is not carried out. So we want to have a discussion. We have the framework, it's ready, but we are ready to change according to the feedback we get.
And we start off by assuring them that we are not inventing anything new. This is what you are doing in school. We are just recording it and getting an integrated approach. Because when you go into schools and to teachers, you tell them you have to start doing something new. In Malta, you get the union, the teachers' union, you can't introduce anything new, you have to, you know. So first thing that we do is we assure them, listen, this is what you are already doing in schools. We just want some reflection, some integration of the work which is being done.
And we want it also very badly, because we have a tendency in Malta to introduce things, but we never evaluate and analyze if they are effective. And we continue to do the things, and we know that they are not working. But we are afraid to say, look, we need to reflect and change these. So this maybe we change this mentality also. We want to bring a bit of change also in the way we do things.
Thank you. Ja teine küsimus oli selle karjääri.
The second question was about the week's practice in the companies. Students go there, and I understand that the students' interest and motivation is taken into consideration. And what is the kind of response from the company, and how does this work in that the youth and companies agree?
Agencies, meaning, for example, with the Financial Services Authority, these are the large entities in Malta who would have, for example, in this case, with regards to the financial services, who would have the financial companies as members of their association, and they would entice employers to participate in these job exposure experience. I can't say it is easy finding placements. It is always a challenge, but once you, I think you try to make the experience as easy as possible for the employer. Sometimes, as I said previously, employers are not sure what is expected out of them. So we organize a lot of meetings with the different entities to explain what is required from their end. We provide a lot of support too. And once you gain the trust of the employer, I think those two aspects, there is a continuation then of offering other placements the following year, and and encouraging other employers, even talking when these large organizations have meetings. Some employers tend to share examples of good practice, and other employers become aware of what is happening in other countries. There is obviously these companies also publicize what they are doing, so this is something positive, showing that they are hosting students. And remember, these are students who are 15-year-olds, so they need constant supervision.
What we also do is we ask students as well if their parents have a type of business or a shop or a factory, and whether their parents would be willing to offer opportunities for the students within the school. So we also try to use the community of the school, and sometimes even workplaces that surround certain schools. In the picture, you saw one which was working in a bakery. So that was in Maypole,
yes,
I think.
That was an organization close to the school. So we use a lot of the community, the places of work within the community.
To arrive here, it took us almost 10 years. So it's not something you build overnight. It takes time and effort, and and resiliency sometimes.
Thank you so much. Kas kellelgi on veel mõni kiirem küsimus? Et siis aitäh.
Thank you.
Ja hea oleks nüüd
It would be good to ask two things. So to draw conclusions from the presentation and what are the valuable ideas that would provide food for inspiration in Estonia. And the second thing, that you have your own work diaries where to document the best outcomes. And I request you to discuss in your tables what would be the best practices, what you have heard here, so worthwhile developing further in Estonia, and what could be the next step for development. So a couple of minutes for discussions, and please share your outcomes after that.
Just, siis ma jooksen ringi. employment. I will collect the ideas and maybe some for you. And I also wanted to say that I sent an email to all of you to the Estonian website where we have the program and all the links to the presentations also from yesterday and today. So everything is now, yeah. Midagi öelda?
Juttu jätkuks kauemaks.
So there's a lot of discussion, but I hope that you could come forward, each table, I mean, with one other ideas or comments. So Margit would walk around and just share the mic, but I will document. So we liked very much the kind of work shadow program for a week in the companies. We understand that it's difficult to implement, but it was very good idea. And yesterday there were a couple of numbers as well. Dorianne mentioned yesterday that when he started the program of a week's practice, then there were 50 companies involved in this program. Was it so, Dorianne?
Companies for one college, just for one college. And we have 10 colleges, so that would be around 500 employers involved for all the colleges. And what we do is that the weeks are spread throughout the year. So one college would have 1 week in the first term, then the following week there would be another college. So we might have the same employer providing placements to different colleges. And that is very challenging when you have, for example, placements for 4 colleges, throughout the year. It's very demanding on the part of the employer.
Jah, aga sellel väiksel Maltal siis on ikkagi sadades neid ettevõtteid, kes sisuliselt...
Thinking that the small Malta, there are 500 employers who are involved in here. And I will continue. We have... actually the work shadow days, not a week, but week is very exciting. Is there a kind of a training program or information sharing with the companies, or is it the kind of voluntary based on mission? So what about the feelings? Do you provide training to the employers?
What we do is we meet with employers to explain the outcomes we want from the experience, the 1 week experience. Very often also we provide them with a sample program, and just for example, giving them some ideas that it would be ideal if they're in the health sector, that they would be exposed to the different departments. So there is support, and we also have agreement forms outlining the responsibilities of the employer. So we try to make things as clear as possible. The responsibilities on the part of parents, because there is the issue of health and safety. There is the issue, of which companies to accept. And for example, we are very careful with regards to health and safety. For example, students who are interested in certain areas, it might be difficult to send them, for example, in a building construction site. So we are very careful also which placements are offered to students. With regards to students, we also hold sessions during PSCD to try to encourage students to explore different options, because very often youngsters are not informed about the different career options, and they tend to go for the traditional jobs. We want to challenge gender stereotyping too. So we prepare also students for this experience, help them to understand what their interests, what they wish to explore. Sometimes we get students who, after wanting to go to explore a particular career, for example, I remember one student who wanted to attend a job exposure in a hotel as a chef. And after the whole week, he said, I am not sure I want to go into this career because I am so tired, it is so stressful, so demanding. So then there's time we reflect a lot. I mean, even if the student decides that this is not the type of career, the right career for him, I think that was a lot of learning involved. So there's time, then there needs to be time for reflection with the students. Also, time for reflection with the employer. At the end of the year, we meet with the different entities and the employers to get feedback. How was their experience? What other support they needed from the schools? So, yes, it involves quite a lot of work.
Okay. Just the last. We also ask for parents' consent. So the parents have to sign that their child is for that week is not going to school but on the workplace. That I think is very, very important.
Nii et me lõunasse väga.
So we have a 1 hour lunch break also, so it's we have to follow the time frame. And then please think whether we can add something to the frame.
Koolis, et
cooperation in school is one key word. And in Malta, it seemed to be excellent, but in our schools, it's lacking efficiency. And just knowing what my partner or colleague is doing, especially. And another interesting thing, so keeping record book. So it is interesting that young people, through different experiences, and also from grade to grade movement, that there's a kind of self-reflection or self-analysis record. And it's possible to assess the process. In Japan, for example, there's a career passport, and it could be excellent if in Estonia we could think about it and implement similar thing. To add to the work shadow program, when I worked in school, then I completed that, and I want to encourage my colleagues all over in Estonia that I did not encounter a single employer who actually flatly would have turned me down. All my connections were positive, and that could be a big dream in Estonia, that to enhance and to contact many employers as possible. So let's draw conclusions now. So the practical experience and cooperation in schools were actually the burning points here.